17 Tiny Habits That Make You Instantly Magnetic. Stoicism. Some people enter a room, and nobody notices. Others walk in silently, and somehow the entire atmosphere changes. No shouting. No fake confidence. No desperate need for attention. Yet everybody feels their presence. People trust them faster. People listen when they speak. People remember them long after they leave. Why? Because magnetism is not about beauty. It is not about money. It is not about being the loudest person in the room. True magnetism is emotional discipline. And today, you are about to learn 17 tiny habits that instantly make you more respected, more trusted, more unforgettable, and more powerful without pretending to be someone else. These habits are rooted in Stoicism, psychology, neuroscience, and real human behavior. By the end of this video, you will understand why some people naturally attract respect while others spend their entire lives chasing validation. And if you truly want to become mentally strong, emotionally disciplined, calm under pressure, and impossible to ignore, subscribe to Discipline Within. Because this channel is where weak habits die, and disciplined men are rebuilt. Now listen carefully. Because habit number 1 changes everything. Habit 1. Master the power of silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. So they fill every moment with unnecessary words. They interrupt. They overexplain. They defend themselves too quickly. They react emotionally before thinking. But magnetic people understand something most people never learn. Silence creates weight. The less desperate you are to prove yourself, the more powerful your presence becomes. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." That single mindset can save your peace, your dignity, and your emotional energy. There was once a young man desperate to impress wealthy businessmen at a dinner gathering. Every time someone spoke, he interrupted. He forced jokes. He tried to sound intelligent. He laughed louder than everyone else. By the end of the night, nobody respected him. Not because he lacked intelligence, but because desperation leaked through every word. Across the table sat an older man. Calm. Still. Observant. He barely spoke during the dinner. But when he finally said something, everyone listened. Why? Because silence created gravity. The Stoics understood that emotional restraint is rare. Anyone can react. Few can remain composed. The next time someone insults you, pause. The next time you feel emotional, pause. The next time you desperately want approval, pause. Because the person who controls himself controls the atmosphere around him. Self-question. Are you speaking to express truth, or to seek validation? That answer reveals your level of inner discipline. Expanded reflection. Think about the people you secretly admire. The calm teacher. The wise grandfather. The quiet leader. The emotionally controlled man. None of them needed to dominate every conversation. Their presence spoke before their words did. And this is important because modern society trains people to fear silence. Social media rewards noise. Arguments reward emotional reactions. Attention culture rewards performance. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. It teaches that strength is often quiet. The man who reacts emotionally to everything becomes predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. But the man who pauses before reacting? He becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Because emotional discipline creates psychological power. Never forget this. Silence is not weakness. Uncontrolled emotion is. Habit 2, the 1-second posture reset. Before you even speak, your body already introduced you. Most people physically shrink themselves. Shoulders collapsed. Head down. Weak eye contact. Nervous breathing. And without realizing it, they silently communicate insecurity. But there is one tiny habit that instantly changes how people perceive you. The 1-second posture reset. Shoulders back. Chest open. Neck relaxed. Slow breath. Chin level. 1 second. That's all. But psychologically, it changes everything. Neuroscience studies show that posture influences confidence, emotional state, stress hormones, social perception, and even decision making. Your body changes your mind. A Stoic warrior entering battle did not wait to feel fearless. He stood like a warrior before courage arrived. Because discipline comes before emotion. There was once a student constantly ignored by classmates and coworkers. Nobody listened to him. Nobody respected him. One day his mentor told him, "Walk as if your ancestors are watching." At first he thought it sounded dramatic. But slowly he changed the way he carried himself. Not arrogantly. Not aggressively. Just with dignity. Weeks later, people treated him differently. Months later, his confidence transformed. Not because the world changed. Because he stopped shrinking himself. Self-question. When you enter a room, does your body communicate confidence or apology? The deeper Stoic lesson. Your posture is not only physical. It is psychological. People can sense emotional collapse before you speak. This is why posture matters. Not because appearance is everything, but because energy is contagious. A disciplined posture tells your nervous system, "I am grounded." And over time, the mind follows the body. Stand upright. Even when life feels heavy. Especially then. Habit 3. The eye contact triangle technique. This tiny technique builds instant trust. And most people have never heard of it. It's called the eye contact triangle. When speaking to someone, gently shift your focus between one eye, the other eye, and the mouth. This creates natural emotional connection. Not robotic staring. Not nervous avoidance. Just calm, balanced presence. Psychologists discovered that healthy eye contact increases trust, emotional bonding, perceived confidence, and social comfort. But Stoics already understood the deeper truth. Attention is respect. In today's world, genuine attention is rare. Everyone is distracted. Everyone is scrolling. Everyone is waiting for their turn to speak. So when you truly focus on someone, they feel it immediately. There was once a doctor famous for calming anxious patients within minutes. People believed he had extraordinary communication skills. But one nurse noticed something unusual. Whenever patients spoke, he gave them complete attention. No distractions. No checking devices. No fake listening. Just presence. Years later, patients barely remembered his medical explanations. But they always remembered one thing. He made me feel important. That is magnetism. Not impressing people. Making people feel seen. Self-question. When people speak to you, are you truly listening? Or are you mentally preparing your response? Habit 4. Speak 10% slower. Fast speech often hides anxiety. Magnetic people rarely rush their words. They speak calmly, clearly, intentionally. Because people associate slower speech with confidence and emotional control. Think about wise philosophers. Think about great leaders. Think about emotionally grounded people. They rarely sound frantic. A young warrior once asked a Stoic teacher, "How do I command respect?" The teacher replied, "Remove desperation from your voice." That sentence changed his life. Most people speak too quickly because they fear silence. They fear rejection. They fear being ignored. They fear seeming unimportant. But when you slow down, your words carry more weight. Your breathing improves. Your thoughts become clearer. And your energy becomes calmer. Practice this today. Pause before answering questions. Breathe between sentences. Stop over-explaining. Because confidence is often quiet. And insecurity is often loud. Habit 5. The echo technique. This technique deepens conversations almost instantly. And it feels almost magical. It's called the echo technique. If someone says, "I've been exhausted lately," instead of immediately talking about yourself, you calmly repeat part of their sentence. Exhausted lately? That's it. Simple. Powerful. Because it encourages emotional openness. It tells people, I hear you. Humans crave emotional validation more than advice. There was once a man who lost his business, his confidence, and almost his hope. One evening he sat beside an old monk and talked for nearly an hour. At the end of the conversation, the man said, Thank you for your wisdom. But the monk barely gave advice. He simply listened deeply and reflected the man's emotions back to him. Sometimes people do not need solutions first. They need understanding first. This is why magnetic people feel rare. Most people listen to reply. Few listen to understand. And people never forget how you made them feel. Habit 6. The neuroscience-backed conversation trick. Neuroscientists discovered something fascinating about the human brain. Talking about ourselves activates reward centers in the brain. In simple words, people enjoy discussing their experiences. Magnetic people understand this deeply. Instead of trying desperately to sound interesting, they become interested. They ask thoughtful questions. Not boring surface-level questions. Meaningful questions. Instead of, What do you do? They ask, What's something that genuinely excites you lately? Instead of, How are you? They ask, What's been on your mind recently? Suddenly conversations become emotionally memorable. There was once a barber loved by an entire town. People waited hours just to sit in his chair. Not because his haircuts were perfect, but because he remembered details about people's lives. He remembered names, dreams, struggles. People left feeling lighter. Years later, customers forgot the haircut. But they never forgot how he made them feel. Remember this. Charm is not performance. It is presence. Habit 7. Never compete for attention. Weak people chase attention. Strong people attract it naturally. There's a difference. Magnetic people do not interrupt conversations to feel important. They do not dominate every room. They do not constantly seek validation. Because true confidence does not need witnesses. A lion never wastes energy convincing the jungle it is powerful. Stoicism teaches us. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop trying to appear valuable. Become valuable. Read more. Discipline yourself. Control your emotions. Build your mind. Eventually your energy will speak louder than your words. Habit 8. Control your reactions. Anyone can control actions. Few can control reactions. And reactions reveal character. When insulted, weak people explode. Insecure people defend themselves endlessly. Magnetic people remain composed. Not because they feel nothing, but because they control themselves. Epictetus said, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. There was once a businessman publicly humiliated during a meeting. Everyone expected him to explode. Instead, he calmly smiled and said, Thank you for your opinion. That moment changed how everyone saw him. People stopped seeing him as emotional. They started seeing him as powerful. Never forget this. The person who angers you controls you. Do not surrender your peace so easily. Habit 9. Theodore Roosevelt Effect. Here's something psychologically fascinating. Sometimes people like you more after doing a favor for you. Not less. Why? Because the brain subconsciously thinks, if I help this person, I must value them. This is called the Theodore Roosevelt effect. Magnetic people understand something important. They allow others to contribute. They do not always try to appear invincible. A young man once believed asking for help made him weak. So he carried every burden alone. Eventually people stopped feeling emotionally connected to him. Another man occasionally asked thoughtful advice and appreciated people sincerely. People naturally bonded with him. Because contribution creates connection. Stoicism teaches humility. You do not become weaker by allowing people to help you. You become human. Habit 10. Learn people's names. Simple habit. Massive impact. A person's name is deeply connected to identity. Remembering it signals respect. There was once a king known for remembering the names of ordinary workers. Years later, those workers remained fiercely loyal to him. Why? Because recognition creates emotional connection. Most people want appreciation more than admiration. When speaking to someone, use their name naturally, sincerely, not excessively. Tiny habit. Massive emotional impact. Habit 11. Make people feel safe, not judged. People are drawn toward emotional safety. Magnetic people do not constantly criticize, mock, or shame others. They create calmness around them. A young woman once said her grandfather was the most loved man she had ever known. Not because he was rich, not because he was famous, but because whenever people spoke to him, they never felt stupid. They felt understood. That is rare. And rarity creates value. In a world full of judgment, become a place of peace. Habit 12. Stop seeking approval. The need for approval destroys magnetism. Because desperation is felt before it is seen. When you constantly need validation, compliments, acceptance, people unconsciously lose respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good." Magnetic people validate themselves first. They do not depend emotionally on public opinion. Because public opinion changes every hour. A man who depends on applause becomes a slave to the crowd. Free yourself. Habit 13. Smile slowly. Not fake smiling. Not forced positivity. A calm, genuine smile. A slow smile communicates emotional safety, confidence, warmth, inner peace. Nervous people often smile excessively because they seek approval. Magnetic people smile naturally because they are emotionally grounded. Peace is attractive. Never forget that. Habit 14. Become comfortable alone. People fear loneliness because they fear themselves. But magnetic people enjoy solitude. They read, reflect, train, think deeply. Stoics believed solitude sharpens the soul. If you cannot enjoy your own company, you will spend your life begging others to distract you from yourself. A man once spent years chasing crowds, parties, and endless validation. Yet he still felt empty. One morning he began walking alone before sunrise. No music. No distractions. Just silence. Slowly he discovered something shocking. Peace was never outside him. It was buried beneath noise. Habit 15. Keep your word. Nothing destroys magnetism faster than inconsistency. If you say you will do something, do it. Trust is built through repeated integrity. A disciplined man becomes respected because people know his words carry weight. Your promises shape your reputation, especially the promises you make to yourself. Habit 16. Practice calm energy. Calmness is contagious. So is chaos. Magnetic people regulate the emotional atmosphere around them. When others panic, they breathe. When others become emotional, they stay grounded. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering them. A Stoic sailor once said, "You do not control the storm. You control the sail." Never forget that. Habit 17. Identity level magnetism. This is the final habit. And the most important. Because temporary techniques create temporary results. But identity-level habits create permanent magnetism. Do not merely act confident. Become disciplined. Do not pretend to be calm. Train your mind daily. Do not fake presence. Build inner peace. Because eventually people can sense authenticity. The most magnetic people are not performing confidence. They embody self-respect. Their habits become identity. Their discipline becomes aura. Their peace becomes power. And this changes everything. Listen carefully. You do not become magnetic overnight. It happens quietly. In the moments nobody sees. When you control your anger instead of exploding. When you stand tall despite fear. When you stop begging for approval. When you listen deeply. When you protect your peace. That is how presence is built. Little by little. Day by day. habit by habit. And one day, people feel something different around you. Not because you became louder, but because you became stronger within. So ask yourself, which habit do you need most right now? Comment below. And if this video spoke to something deep inside you, subscribe to Discipline Within for more videos about Stoicism, discipline, emotional mastery, self-control, confidence, and becoming mentally unbreakable. Because your strongest self is still waiting to be built. And the world changes when disciplined men finally awaken.